Hello everyone. Welcome to the Hi-Fi of the Day, Daily Current Affairs by Alchemy IAS Institute. I am Suhas. We are going to discuss the five most important topic from the news which will be relevant for your UPSC civil service preparation. Yesterday, you may have witnessed the rare blood moon. What do you mean by blood moon? What is actually lunar eclipse? Lunar eclipse happen when the sun, earth and moon are in the same line. The shadow from this earth will be on the moon and the moon will not be visible because of this shadow. So what is blood moon? What causes the blood moon? When the sunlight passes through the earth's atmosphere, the lower wavelength lights like blue, like violet, indigo, these things will be scattered on the atmosphere, but only the higher wavelength light, higher wavelength radiation, visible radiations like red and orange reaches the moon. So the light from the sun, when the visible radiation from the VIBGYOR, from the pattern of that VIBGYOR, only the lower wavelength light will be scattered on the atmosphere of the earth. The higher wavelength light will reach the moon and it will be reflected back. So the moon will appear as a red in color or as like an orange in color. That's why it is called a blood moon. What's the relevance? What is the blood moon's color actually reveal? The blood moon's color, if it is more reddish, that means our atmosphere have more dust particle. So that ultimately, if the that red color or it's like the intensity of red color of the moon directly proportional to the air quality index of or it's like that air quality of earth's atmosphere. So this is relevant for understanding the air quality. Another concept called the internal diaspora. It's called Videshi is one's own country. What do you mean by this internal diaspora? What do you mean by diaspora? Diaspora means people of another country living in one country. That like, for example, if you say like Indian diaspora in US means Indian people or Indian citizen or is like Indian origin people living in United States. That is Indian diaspora. So this is a transnational concept. But what do you mean by internal diaspora? Internal diaspora means people of one state or one language is living in another state of another language. For example, if a Tamil person living in Delhi, that means he is from the Tamil Nadu, from the original Tamil Nadu, his language is Tamil, but he's living in Delhi or UP, Uttar Pradesh. That means he is living in another state of another language. So this person can be termed as an internal diaspora. So this is a new concept. You have to understand. We can quote these things in our mains answer writing. Internal diaspora. So what is this internal diaspora matters? Like how it is matters. Language as a marker of diaspora. Mainly Tamil, Punjabi, Malayalam speaking people are the most widely spread population. So that diasporas are more widely spread from among these languages or like these states like Kerala, Tamil Nadu and Punjab. Even though Hindi is widely while having the largest number of speakers in total is less dispersed proportionally. The number of Hindi speaking people are more, but they are not spread. That there is a disproportion between this Malayalis, Tamilians and Punjabis and the Hindi speaking people. That even though they are Hindi speaking people are more in number, but they are not widely spread. Surprisingly, cities like Madurai shows no official Gujarati migrants, but have 60,000 plus or more than 60,000 Gujarati speaking people are there in Madurai, proving the depth of internal diaspora. So why this broader view matters? Why this matters for us? Why it is matters for the country? Why it is matters? Internal diaspora is matter. See, internal diaspora is important because of this cultural diversity, or it's like sometimes security implications are also there. Federalism is also matter. Sometimes like when the people are permanently dislocated from one place to another, it affect the voting pattern also. So in many dimensions, this internal diaspora is important for India. The article called Right to Education Act and the Minority Education Institutions. Why it is in news? The Supreme Court is re-examining its 2014 Pramati judgment which exempted minority educational institutions from the Right to Education Act of 2009. The Right to Education Act is exempted the minority education institutions. It was a two-judge Supreme Court bench recently questioned whether this exemption violates the children's fundamental right to quality education under the Article 21A, which is right to education as a fundamental right. So that was a re-examination. So what was the 2014 judgment? In Pramati ruling held that applying right to education provisions like the 25% reservation to disadvantageous children, like from section 21(1)(c), would interfere with the Article 13(1), which protect the minority group's right to run their own school. It said that the obligation could destroy the minority character of that school. That was a judgment. That means the minorities' right under Article 30 to establish and administer the educational institutions is getting tampered or violated when the Right to Education Act 2009 is being implemented. That especially the 25% reservation mandate is there. So what is this ruling being changed? The Supreme Court found that SIPPing's exception legally questionable. Nothing that many so-called minority schools don't serve only minorities. So they are named as minority school, but that they serve not only minorities, they serve other majority, I mean like other section students also, I mean people also. Over 62% of students in such schools are non-minorities. They're so-called minority, but they are not minorities exactly. Less than 9% from the disadvantaged background. That suggests some schools misuses this minority status to avoid the RT obligation. So this is a matter of concern here. That's why Supreme Court is being re-examining or is like changing this earlier judgment, denying the poor children to protection under RTE norms like qualified teachers, libraries, and bans on corporal punishment. So this exception under Article 13 is being misused. That was the finding. So what did the court say about balancing this right? The Supreme Court emphasized the need for harmonious interpretation between, like, you know, that you can actually guess what is this harmonious interpretation. Usually this will happen between the directive principle of state policy and the fundamental right. Now Supreme Court has interpreted this harmonious interpretation between Article 20 sorry Article 13(1), that right of minorities education, right of minority to establish educational institutions, and Article 21A, right to education. So there should be a harmonious construct between these two articles. So it said that children's rights should not be tampered entirely by the institution's autonomy. RT is a child-centric law, not an institution-centric, because what is the like a purpose of this RT? To get a free and fair education to children. So it should be children-centric. Should ensure quality education for all children, including those in minority schools also. So this exception, it is there, but there should be a harmonious construct or a harmonious interpretation between these two fundamental right. Article 21A and Article 30 should be there. That was the stand of court. Bio 3 policy. It's recently in discussion. We have to know in the perspective of prelims and mains. What do you mean by Bio 3? E3. Bio E3. E3, what are the three E's? That economy, environment, and employment. Ultimately, it is using the biotechnology for economic perspective, economic gain, environment perspective, and generating employment. That is Bio E3. It to promote high performance biomanufacturing in India by leveraging the biotechnology and reduce the import dependence by producing biotechnology based product domestically, thereby supporting the economy, ensuring the environmental sustainability, and generating employment. That was it is interconnected. Supporting the economy, environment sustainability should be there, and employment generation also should be there by using the biotechnology, reducing the import dependence by advancing the biotechnology. The key features are biomanufacturing hub. There are 16 hubs planned across India, located in research institutes, private firms, or near existing industrial or knowledge hubs. So there will be like already the places are there. I mean, like the institutions are there. Along with that, 16 hubs will be constructed over the open to. This is open to startups, academia, and private companies also. And as then the charges will be that startup will be charged maximum 5% of our actual cost of this setting up, and companies up to 15% of our cost, and no claim on IP rights by the facilities. Intellectual property right claim won't be there. And focus area, 6 key domains are there. This is important, 6 key domains. Bio-based chemicals and enzymes, one domain. Functional food and smart protein. Precision biotherapeutic. Then climate resilient agriculture, carbon capture and utilization, and marine and space research. These are the 6 key areas. It should be noted. And 1,000 products identified. The Department of Biotechnology is finalizing 1,000 biotech products for domestic manufacturing. Surprisingly, then, not surprisingly, actually, some interesting news is there. Donald Trump renamed United States Department of Defense to Department of War. So now the Department of Defense will be known as Department of War. Officially, it is recognized. Why it is important? Actually, what is interesting in this? Actually, the Trump's view is defense. The word defense is too defensive. Okay, we don't want to be too defensive, and we want to be defensive, but we want to be offensive too if we have. That was the interpretation by Donald Trump. That means like sometimes we need to be offensive also. So we are changing this Department of War into Department of Defense. Sorry, Department of Defense into Department of War. So war word is emphasized, but this is not a new move. Earlier, if you look at the history, around 1978 to 1947, the United States originally had been a Department of War. So this is not a Trump's invention, or it's like it's not a new thing that Trump brought in. Earlier, Department of Defense was known as Department of War. So which managed by the Army, earlier Navy and Marine Corps. Then 1947, after Second World War, the National Military Establishment was created under the President Harry Truman and identified the armed services. These three armed services are formally named, and in 1949, the uh, like National Military Establishment was renamed the Department of Defense, largely because National Military Establishment sounded like a enemy, which was considered bad optic during the Cold War. So it happened after the Second World War, during the Cold War era, that National Military Establishment has been named to Department of Defense, or as like that uh, Department of War was not. I mean, it got removed. But Trump's view is when or it's like when they named it is Department of War, there were more success for this department, or it's like there were more success for or victories for America, like the First World War, Second World War, like that. So the victories of America have some connection with the name that is Department of War. So he want again victory. That's why he changed the name to changed from Department of Defense into Department of War.